Welcome back. No doubt it's been a very eventful day here in Washington. We were all watching the six ballots, no speaker. The House taking the night off now, and they'll reconvene tomorrow. Let's talk about what we've seen play out with our friend, Dr. Wright, professor at Princeton University of Political Science. Good to see you again.
Nice to see you, Jim.
We were going to have you on. We were waiting to see how it would go tonight. And now that we know that there will not be a speaker here, I know people were expecting this to go multiple ballots. I don't think people expected to get to this point and still no sign of a resolution.
I think you're right. And the fact that McCarthy has been negotiating with at least part of this 20-person rebel group for weeks now and has not gotten to some kind of resolution casts even more doubt on his fitness for the job, because this is really one of the only jobs where the application is exactly the skill set you have to show once you're in the seat. You have to build consensus and make compromises. And so far, he has not been able to do that.
You know, for years and years and years, rightfully or wrongfully, depending on how you look at it politically, Nancy Pelosi was viewed as some sort of hero or villain on either side of the aisle here. But she was always able, in spite of the fact that there were people within her own caucus who had said, you know, we're not going to support her. She found a way to get them back on board, and she never went. I mean, nobody's gone to another ballot in 100 years here. Is there a way that Kevin McCarthy saves face?
I mean, he really only has a handful of strategies left. And considering the fact that he is pretty hardline, he wants this job, and that's the biggest weakness that many people see, he can either start peeling off these 20 members one by one, probably start with the 5 rebels that were just elected and have no institutional power, maybe then go to the 8 of them that acknowledge Joe Biden as a legitimate president duly elected in 2020 and start to compromise with them. Or he can sort of go for the nuclear option and go to Democrats and start negotiating on the rules package with them.
There are a lot of people who have suggested that. And if you hear from the likes of Eric Swalwell, the congressman from Southern California, and other lawmakers, they say, you know, it's not on us. It's not on the Democrats to get that done. But there's a lot of messaging but this inaction is certainly sending a lot of messages in many different directions.
It's not on the Democrats to get it done, but eventually, if they inflict enough pain through watching this multiple rounds continuing, there is an incentive for them to get something out of this, whether it's more power on committees, whether it's certain legislative accomplishments that they want to talk with McCarthy about. So acknowledging that they're not in the majority and that this 20-person holdout isn't going to do what McCarthy wants, no matter what it looks like, they might behind the scenes be scheming about how is this going to game out and how could we get some benefits here and maybe look like the heroes at the end.
Yeah, well, and people have said, those speaking in favor of Kevin McCarthy have gotten up and correctly pointed out that they have the majority now, and he was the one who was in charge of messaging there. And there were a lot of issues that they ran on and things that they wanted to see done, that, you know, whether it be economic issues, whether it be about some of these investigations that many Republicans want to see happen. They can't do anything right now at this point. And you know, is this, I think there were some members of the GOP caucus, Nancy Mace of South Carolina, one of them, who pointed out Matt Gaetz specifically and said, what are you trying to accomplish here? Because in the end, they're going to have to elect a speaker. The question is, who's it going to be?
Right. And so either they're going to have to cave on these demands that they've made, and they keep moving the goalpost. McCarthy has actually given in to a lot of the requests, and now they want other things, which, by the way, they might do to Steve Scalise or Elise Stefanik. They might do the same exact thing to them. Yeah. Or they're going to have to start over completely. And so it's true. McCarthy at least is starting from, I think, 91% rather than 0, which would be those other candidates. And it becomes a much longer, more drawn out process. But it is remarkable that this is happening, and it is a very weak position for him to be in.
In these rules that were negotiated before we got to this point, there was something in there, and this was something that was sort of a kill switch when John Boehner was sort of forced out the door. Was this idea that under the rules agreed to, it would take, at least right now, only one member to get up and say, we need a new vote for speaker. And there have been different numbers in the past, but it would be a very small number of members that could undermine whoever the speaker may be. And the question I've heard a former Republican congressman say today is, who would want the job at that point?
Right, because it's not an important or substantive speakership at that point. So I believe what they agreed on is 5 members right now. In the past, what they want is 1, right. Which, as you said, is pretty much untenable. And so I think the question for McCarthy is, do you really keep giving carrots to this group? They're clearly not negotiating in good faith. Or is it time for some sticks, or maybe to go to Democrats and see what you can get from them and punish Republicans for behaving in this way and making it clear to them that they can't hold up legislative proposals in this manner? They'll get bad results again.
The last question I have for you, because again, this was brought up by Congressman Chip Roy, who has been advocating for Byron Donalds. He had said, the average person, the average American is not watching this and saying, oh my God, we don't have a speaker. They're worried about more important issues. The reality, though, is, and again, it goes back to the idea, yes, there are absolutely important things that people across this country care about more so than who the speaker is going to be. But until you get a speaker, you can't accomplish any of those issues.
That's right. And I do think that it's a very clear picture, even if you don't pay attention much or understand much about politics, this is chaos. It makes the country look bad. It makes the party look bad. They're not getting anything done, and then they can't even pay their staff if they draw this out after the 13th. And so I think that is easy to understand for most Americans. They don't want to see that. And that's when you get even lower congressional approval ratings than the low double digits that they already have.
Can it get any lower at this point?
Oh, yeah, it can always get lower with Congress. Yeah.
Dr. Lauren Wright, we appreciate it. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
And the Final Five is back after this.